So again, welcome. This is the 9 Pillars of Resilience with Dr. Sideroff. I am Ashley at the Vasculitis Foundation. So I just wanted to go over some housekeeping things, and then I'm going to pass it off to the doctor who's excited to share with you. The first thing is that at the end of the presentation today, Dr. Sideroff will be taking questions. So if things come up for you during his presentation, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. It looks like two sort of like quotation boxes or quotation bubbles. If you can put any questions for him in there. We'll reserve the chat if you just want to sort of comment with each other during the Zoom presentation, but any questions that you want to ask specifically at the end, put them in the Q&A box, and we'll try to get to as many as we can towards the end. What else do I want to tell you? I'm looking at my notes here. Well, I guess the one thing is we are able to make these webinars possible, and they are free to anyone who wants to join, thanks to people and organizations that support us. So for a moment, I'm just gonna share my screen. Hopefully you can see that. I've got Zoom on the screen. I just want to take a moment to thank our webinar sponsors, which are Amgen, AstraZeneca, and Novartis. Again, they are the organizations or companies that help make these webinars free and possible. Last thing is in the chat, or actually I'm going to put it in the chat now. Dr. Sider, I'm not talking about it. He's going to be talking about your resilience profile today. You should have gotten an email this morning with a link to something that at the end, it's a quiz to find your resilience profile. But if you didn't, Jen just put it in the chat now. You can find it there. I think we'll be talking about that today. All right, housekeeping out of the way. I'm going to introduce our guest speaker here and then let him take over from there. So Dr. Steven Sideroff is an internationally recognized psychologist, executive and medical consultant, and expert in resilience, longevity, optimal performance, addiction, neurofeedback, and mental health, lots of specialties. He has published pioneering research in these fields. He's also an associate professor in the departments of psychiatry and biobehavioral sciences and rheumatology at UCLA's Geffen, I don't know if I said that right, School of Medicine. He was the founder and former clinical director of the Stress Strategies program of UCLA Santa Monica Hospital, and former clinical director of Moonview Treatment and Optimal Performance Center. He has helped establish innovative training and treatment approaches in optimal functioning and mind-body medicine in the US, China, and Europe, and has hosted summits on longevity, resilience, and leadership. He's also coming out with a new book that we're excited about. It's called The 9 Pillars of Resilience: The Proven Path to Master Stress, Slow Aging, and Increase Vitality. So with that, I'm going to toss it to him.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you very much, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, I enjoyed last year. I attended your function and spoke, and enjoyed meeting many of you and talking with many of you. So it's a pleasure to be back here again. And let me pull up my slides. All right, we're all set. So we're going to talk today about finding your mind-body's innate ability to heal through my model of the 9 pillars of resilience. And the goal here is not just to give you information. I want to trigger you engaging in a process that actually helps you improve your body and mind's ability for healing and growth. And so we need to start off with what we're up against. And we're up against some big issues, not just your particular population, but everybody. And that has to do with stress and the growing complexity of life and all the impact that stress plays on our minds and our bodies. And it begins with the fact that we actually have a stress mechanism, a stress response that was not made for the world we live in. We still have the same evolutionary survival mechanism of our hunter-gatherers, the fight or flight mechanism. So think about it. How many of the stresses that you face in your life can you handle by either fighting them or running from them? Probably none. But yet, your body mobilizes every time there's a worry, every time there's uncertainty, every time you're concerned about whether a friend or a family member is upset with you. All of these financial pressures, your illness, all of these activate your stress response, even though that mobilization of your energy does not help you in any of those situations. But we mobilize, and then we have to hold in that energy, actually utilizing even more. And so there's this dysregulation that's caused by this imbalance, by this old mechanism that we're applying in our modern society. Next, we have a developmental mismatch. We learn how to use the stress response. We learn how to engage in the world based on our little family upbringing. That to us was our world. How many of you went around sampling hundreds of families to see what's a normal response? What's the best response? None of us. Our world was our little family, and we assumed that that's how the world worked. So we adapted. We learned the lessons of that little world that we lived in. And now as adults, we're playing by those rules, even though those rules are not the best rules for us. And so we may have learned that we're not okay. We may have learned that to expect people to be judging and negative. There are a lot of lessons that we learned that don't serve you now. Next, I want you to think about all the successes you've had in your life. Big success, little success, getting a good grade on a test, having a meeting that goes well. And I guarantee you that all, if not most, of your successes have been paired with what? Have been accompanied by what? Stress. All the things that lead to success are usually stressful. So what happens in our brains? Our brains put those together. They put success together with stress. And one of my early mentors, one of the pioneers in neuroscience, Donald Hebb, coined the phrase, neurons that fire together, wire together. And so our brains have put those things together. And what does that mean? It means that unconsciously, we're actually seeking out stressful experiences because they've been associated with success. Okay? So this is what we're up against, all of us, everybody. Okay? Next, here's another thing about how neurons that fire together, wire together work. Let's say you're anxious. And let's say you start the day worried and anxious, what can go wrong? And at the end of the day, you look back and nothing went wrong. It was an okay day. Do you then say, well, I guess I didn't have to be anxious? No. Again, what happens in our brains? That anxiety that we had is paired with things turn out okay. And that's how we perpetuate anxiety, because our brain has paired it with things being okay. And our brain makes the assumption, it's not correct, but makes the assumption that it's because I was anxious that things turned out okay. It's because I was hypervigilant that things turned out okay, etc. So childhood lessons get perpetuated through bad habit formation, as I'm just describing to you. Important, very important. Okay. So we have many triggers of stress during our day. How many triggers do we have of calm, of safety, of peace? Almost none. So here I'm going to take you through this journey of these curves that you see here. We have two branches to our nervous system, the sympathetic that activates to stress, the parasympathetic that helps us recover. We use up resources in our bodies every time we stress ourselves. The recovery is necessary to restore those resources. This is at the heart of healing. This is at the heart of recovery and staying in this place of balance. So optimally, look at this bottom curve here. Optimally, we have a stressful experience, we engage it, and then when the stress is over, we give ourselves this opportunity to recover so that when the next stress occurs, we're ready to handle it, etc. This is sustainability, right? But what happens with most of us? With most of us, I'd say all of us, but I'm not an absolutist. We engage in a stressful response, and when it's over, rather than recovering, we then look for or engage in the next stress response and further activate the nervous system. And then when that's over, instead of taking time to recover, we're looking for the next problem, the next stress, and very quickly in our day, notice we've stretched the resources of our bodies. That's what we're all dealing with, and that's what throws our bodies out of balance. That's what causes brain impairment and dysregulation, organ dysfunction, fatigue, increased inflammation, and impairment of healing. So a study was once done, and this study could not be done anymore, but they took two groups of people, a high stress group and a low stress group. And they gave them all a 10-centimeter incision in their skin. And then they looked to see how long it took for that to heal. And they found that the high stress group took twice as long for the healing to occur. And we now have literally thousands of studies that validate this same notion about the relationship between stress and the impairment of healing. So this is what I refer to as autonomic dysregulation syndrome, because there's a dysregulation between these two branches of our nervous system leading to all of this dysfunction. Now, let me show you something here. These are brain waves, our electroencephalogram. And what I want to point out to you, so these are our brain waves of different frequencies. Some very slow, like here's a slow wave. And then riding on top of it are faster waves, and on top of that, even faster waves. And we can pull those frequencies out here from the slowest to the fastest. And when we are in this dysregulation that I'm talking about, we see excessive slow wave activity. Here we see it in a time dimension here, so we can see all of these peaks down at the slow frequencies, but we also see these peaks at higher frequencies, and with lower amplitudes in the middle. It turns out that these slow waves have an impact on us. They cause cognitive fog. They cause some difficulty thinking. But then those higher frequencies that are elevated here also, we can see them here, they create tension and anxiety. And this is a pattern of autonomic dysfunction, dysregulation that I've been talking about, where we have too much of the very low frequencies, too much of the higher frequencies, but the frequencies that we want to have more of, alpha right here and low beta right here, The green and the yellow are low, and those are the ones we want to be higher. And so we see the effects of what I've been talking about in our brain waves as well. And of course, the effect is of this chronic activation is the breakdown of different parts of our body. Now, one of the reasons why we have resistance to dealing with stress is because to some degree, stress actually helps us. It mobilizes us, it motivates us, it helps us be more focused, helps us be able to concentrate and be persistent. So you can see that as we increase the level of arousal, the level of stress, performance actually goes up. But notice there's this optimal window of activation and stress where our performance is at its best and our health is at its best. But notice as we increase arousal and stress, what happens to performance? It starts to break down, and health starts to break down as well. Now, I want you to see that there are two curves here. When we increase resilience, when we learn to manage our personal energy better, we actually create a bigger window of optimal functioning. We can actually push our level of stress further out without performance falling down. So this is what I refer to as the resilience advantage, both in terms of the window of optimal functioning and that we actually get even higher levels of performance here with greater resilience. So I like to say that when we're born, we're thrown into the ocean of life. And like any ocean, the ocean of life has these big waves of stress. And so we want to learn how to ride the waves of stress in our lives so we don't get tossed and turned by them, but we handle them more efficiently and effectively. And that's where I developed my model of resilience with its 9 pillars. I'm going to touch on them briefly here, and then we're going to go into a few of them. So on the first level, you have relationship and concentric circles, your relationship with yourself, relationship with others, and relationship with something greater. That can be having spirituality in your life. It could be having purpose and meaning in your life, giving service, something that connects you to the larger community. Next, the next row, we have physical balance and mastery. Can I recover after a stressful experience is over, or do I keep activating my nervous system? Am I able to go to a deep place of calm at night so I get a good night and restorative sleep? Mental balance and mastery. This is having a positive mindset. We're going to go into that in a moment. And emotional balance and mastery, we'll get into that in a moment as well. And the last three are how we engage in the world. How present are we? How flexible are we? If there's an obstacle placed in our path, are we able to be flexible enough so that we can still achieve our goals? Or are we rigid and get stuck because something is in our way? And then finally, power, which I define as the ability to get things done. And this has to do with being able to create a focus, create goals, being persistent. But most of all, power is about raising your level of courage to overcome whatever fears you have for taking action. Okay. Now, it can seem like a lot. It could seem overwhelming. There's so many things that we can imagine need to be done. And that's why I created this notion of the path. The path is alongside you every day. And all you need to do to get onto the path is take some steps based on my 9 pillars of resilience. So the path is always accessible to you as long as you take just a few steps. And when you take the few steps, such as practicing a relaxation exercise, having a positive mindset, that puts you on the path. And now you know you're going in the right direction. And it's important because we don't want to think that success is only all the ways down at the end of the road. We want to know that success is available to us every single day. And so that's the purpose of the path. I can get on the path today. I can be successful today. Okay? And so you only have to ask yourself one question. Am I on or off the path at any moment? And if you're off the path, there's some simple steps you could take to get back onto the path. So here's the framework for healing, the framework for growth. And I'm going to challenge all of you listening and watching right now to see if you can make a commitment to this process. To see if you can make a commitment to these 6 points I'm putting on the slide here. So the first one is having a growth mindset. This is most important. A growth mindset means that if you notice a shortcoming, if you notice something about yourself that you don't like, that you think is getting in your way, with a growth mindset, you approach it with, okay, what do I need to do to change this? What do I need to do to improve this? This is in contrast to a fixed mindset in which you look at a shortcoming and you feel like I'm stuck with this shortcoming, or this is in my DNA, this is who I am. No. None of this is in your DNA. It's all learned. And that's why you have a growth mindset, because you can look at a habit, you can look at a behavior, you can look at a thought pattern that's not serving you, and you could say, I can do better. You can say, with a growth mindset, I can work through this. So that's one. It's important for all of us to recognize we have limited personal energy. So your body is always making choices where to send the energy. Okay? So I can send the energy to mobilize the fight or flight response, or I could send the energy to my kidneys to do a better job of purifying my blood. Your brain and body are always making these choices. The more time you spend in protect and defend and using your energy there, the less energy you have for recovery and healing. Okay? Important point there. Accepting what is. Many of us have difficulty accepting stuff that we don't like. But it's important when it's something that you can't do anything about, that you accept it. And this is on many different levels. It's on, community level, it's on family level, it's on personal level. For example, you may have somebody in your life who doesn't treat you the way you would like them to treat you, who is not meeting your needs. Well, it may be that they're either not capable of meeting your needs or not interested in meeting your needs. That's something that's important for you to accept. You may not like it, and accept doesn't mean you like it. Accept is simply a recognition of reality. Hey, that person is just never going to meet my needs. Let me put my energy someplace else rather than still working hard to get something that's a dead end. Okay? So accepting what is very important. Restoring autonomic balance. So we've been talking about the dysregulation of our nervous system. How do we restore autonomic balance? And there's no shortcut. it's taken you all this time to get to this level of dysregulation. You want to engage in a process. Remember, growth mindset. Engage in a process that gradually restores this balance. And there's no shortcut. It involves practice, some form of relaxation, mindfulness, meditation, practice. 10 minutes a day. We'll go into that in a moment. Your relationship with yourself. And that's the next thing we're going to touch on. And then emotional intelligence. So I talked about how our early childhood lessons really establish the pattern for the rest of our lives. And it begins with the internal voice that gets developed, that I refer to as our old internal voice or our old internal parent. So we take all the lessons of our childhood, and they are what develop the voice that we hear 24/7. And, normally we don't say, oh, my voice, let me put it out here and let me look at my voice. It's right inside. It's like, does a fish know that it's swimming in water? It's all it knows, right? And our voice is all that we know. But now, in my program with you today, I'm challenging you to start noticing whether your internal voice is loving and kind to you or more negative, judgmental, and critical. This is a key because how much stress you experience in your life to a great extent depends on how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself, what your relationship is with yourself. And so most of us have an internal voice that could be negative, judgmental, critical. We can be hard on ourselves. If we make a mistake, we might beat ourselves up for that mistake. We may have great difficulty letting go of the mistake. And we might have an approach to ourselves in which we're always looking for or expecting something to be wrong or go wrong. Okay? I want to contrast that for all of you with what I refer to as a healthy internal voice, or we can refer to it as a healthy internal parent. And so this is a step in your healing process. That step is migrating from any of this negativity and how you treat yourself over to how a healthy internal voice will speak to you. And it will speak to you from a place of love, acceptance, compassion, support, self-care, and joy. Okay? Those are the qualities of a healthy internal parent. And so I'm going to invite you, if we had a long time today, I would do this with you, but I'm going to invite you. Anything that you're struggling with in your day, in your life, I'm going to ask you to listen to how your current internal voice is talking to you about that. And notice where it may be, judgmental or critical, hard on you, negative. Notice if it might be even abusive, self-abusive. And then I want you to imagine another voice. Now, you may see this inside of you, but it may be teeny tiny. But I'm going to ask you, and do this on your own, to have a dialogue between your existing internal voice and then this voice that I'm suggesting would be a healthy internal voice. And have a dialogue between the two voices. And the negative might be saying, you should have done a better job at this. Or why didn't you do that? And the more positive, loving voice might come along and say, so-and-so is okay. They're doing their best. They're really working as hard as they can. And that might be the first step in that dialogue. That first step is where the positive, healthy, maybe sort of coming to your defense, right? Hey, Joe is doing a good job. He's working hard. The goal ultimately, however, is for the healthy voice to shift from just defending to a voice that says to the negative, hey, your approach is wrong. Your focus on the negative is wrong. So notice now the healthy voice is being more assertive in this process rather than just defensive. It's going on the offense. So it's not just trying to defend based on this view of the world. It's now saying your view of the world is wrong because you keep focusing on the negative. And I will suggest to all of you that this voice is wrong even when it presents a fact. How can you say, even when it presents a fact, it's wrong? Well, think of the child that goes home with a 90 on their report card, and the mother or father says, why did you get those 10 wrong? Well, it's a fact, but it's such an inappropriate presentation of a fact because the emphasis is on the wrong thing. The emphasis should be on how the child got 90% correct. Okay, so we have to look to see that negativity in our existing voice. Your relationship with yourself is a key component of optimal functioning and optimal healing. And I encourage you to start noticing how you talk to yourself and begin thinking about this optimal model and trying to keep coming from that positive voice. So my fifth pillar of resilience is mental balance and mastery. And I've already talked about a growth versus a fixed mindset. A lot of times we approach a situation and we worry we're going to get it wrong. We worry we're going to make a mistake. We worry, do I know what to do? And I'm inviting you to have a growth mindset in which you focus on what's possible rather than what's not possible. That you focus on simply, if this is what I need to be doing, let me just engage rather than go through all of these issues about how difficult it might be. A mental balance and mastery includes positive thoughts and focus. Start your day by thinking about what can go right rather than what can go wrong. And then hold an intention. Hold the intention of having a positive mindset. When you hold an intention, it points you in the right direction. And another way to point yourself in the right direction is to create some affirmations around this goal. So an affirmation is a statement written as if the goal has already been achieved. Okay? So if you're somebody who can focus on the negative, instead of an affirmation being, okay, I want to think more positively, an affirmation would be, I'm a person who thinks more positively. So I'm stating it as if it's already occurred because that's what the brain hears, and that's what begins to create new neural connections in your brain. The goal here in my work with you guys and in this program is to engage neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to establish new connections. And here are the guidelines for that. So create affirmations about what you want, but you write the affirmation as if it's already happened. And this is how you turn bad habits into healthy habits. So, a bad habit, for example, might be when you get into bed at night, your mind is doing all the problem solving, thinking about the next day, etc. And that's getting in the way of a good night's sleep. Well, that's a bad habit. thinking when you're in bed. And so you have the capability with a growth mindset to shift that. All you have to do is, when you get into bed, you say, bed is for sleeping and not for thinking. And every time you catch yourself with a thought, make a note of what that's about and say, I'll deal with it tomorrow, but then say, no, this is not a time for thinking. And maybe 3 minutes later, you're thinking that you catch yourself thinking again, because that's how habits work. Instead of giving up and saying, oh, this isn't going to work, that's a fixed mindset. You say, okay, I just have to keep saying no to that pattern in my brain of problem solving. No, this is not the time. And then you shift into a different focus. Now, if you do have problems with sleep, the focus you want to shift to, so thinking activates the left side of your brain. To fall asleep, you need to activate the right side of your brain. How do you do that? Well, thinking is not going to do it. You shift from saying no to the thought, and you shift into feelings and sensations. So you feel how your head feels sinking into your pillow, how your body feels sinking into the mattress, what the sensation is like. Oh, this feels good. So you shift from thinking to feeling and sensations, or you focus on your breath. So let me give you a tool for gaining mental control. I want you all to imagine that you have your own personal remote control, and that this remote control is connected to your brain. So when you're thinking about something and you need to want to let go of it, whether it's because you're trying to fall asleep, or whether it's an anxiety worry that you have that you want to let go of, I want you to imagine a control, a remote control that has a channel and a volume, and that you can press down to turn down the volume of what you're hearing in your brain, or you can change the channel. And I want you to imagine you have this personal remote control, and I would like you to use that in your day, in your life, whenever you are in a mood that you don't care for and you want to shift out of it, or thoughts and thinking. Perhaps you're focusing on something that you regret or you wish didn't happen. Take out your remote control and either change the channel or turn down the volume. And again, when you think of a growth mindset, the more you practice it, the better you will get. So I want to give you hope and encouragement about neuroplasticity. This is a training screen for neurofeedback, in which before I showed you the EEG of someone dysregulated, too much low frequency, too much high, and not enough in the middle. This is a training for someone like that, but this was done with a group of breast cancer survivors who were experiencing chemo brain. Chemo brain is cognitive deficits due to the chemotherapy. And most of these women said that they were not able to function the way they used to function because of cognitive fog. And when we looked at their brainwave patterns, we actually saw severely elevated low frequency and high frequency and not enough in the middle. And so we did this training. And in this training, we monitored the low frequency, the very high frequency, and when they dropped their levels in the very low and the very high below the threshold, that turned green. And when the optimal frequencies went above the threshold, that also turned green. And when all three were green, a tone would go on. These are the brainwave patterns before the training. And you see this red is over 2 standard deviations above normal. Whoops. But notice after the training, their brains almost completely normalized, and these women said they got their lives back. And I present this to you to demonstrate the healing potentials of your brain. Following my 9 pillars in a program of greater resilience can actually lead to the healing in your brain and your body. Now let's look at emotional balance and mastery. We all carry around emotional baggage, feelings for situations and people that have not been resolved. And what I want to say to you all is that it's important to work through all of this emotional unfinished business. Even if the person you have that issue with is no longer in your life, or perhaps they're even no longer alive. But what needs to be finished is what's sitting inside of you, which is the emotional baggage. And I'm going to give you a 5-step process for addressing that. So take a moment to let's think about somebody that you're carrying some feelings about. It could be sadness, loss, anger, frustration. Maybe they're not responding to you the way you would like them to. So here's a process to engage in anytime you notice emotional unfinished business. And one of the ways to notice emotional unfinished business is when you have a reaction that's bigger than a situation calls for. We refer to that as emotional reactivity. That's because the situation is tapping into your pool of unfinished business and causing this bigger reaction. Okay. I notice this sometimes in my own life. I could be trying to untie a knot and I'm starting to get more and more angry. Why isn't this knot, helping out here? And when I notice that and sit back and I smile and I think, I'm getting angry at this inanimate object. What am I really angry about? What am I holding on to? And it's all of our responsibility to be aware of these things in our lives. And here's the process. One is to acknowledge, to be aware. Yeah, I'm carrying some unfinished business. I'm carrying some emotions. Next is to identify what and who it's about. Now, you're welcome to actually speak to or address it with this person, but the point of this process is that you don't have to in order to get resolution. Because if our resolution of our feelings required someone else to respond in a certain way, we'd be stuck. We have no control over that person. We have no way of making that person respond the way we want to. And so if we needed that person to respond a certain way, we would stay stuck. But the good news is that what's needed is for you to express those feelings, get them out. You can imagine that person right here in the room with you, and you can yell and scream if it's anger, or if it's sadness, you can express your sadness. But the idea is to feel and express your feelings. But then it's important to accept what is. Barbara may never listen to me. She may never agree with me. I need to accept that, not because I like it, because that's reality. I don't have control over Barbara to have her respond. If I still hold on to that need, I will keep generating new feelings of upset. Okay. And finally, you want to let go. Finally, you want to say, I've gotten the feelings out. I accept that the situation may not change. I need to let go because the only person I'm hurting by carrying these feelings is myself. And remember, relationship with yourself, a loving relationship. If I have a loving relationship with myself, I'm not going to want to carry this baggage because it's only hurting me. And the result of what I'm talking about is living a life of no regrets. And anytime you notice a regret, you work through the same process to let go of it. Here the doctor's saying to this woman, according to the tests, it's not water you're retaining, you're holding a grudge. Okay. What are the benefits of positive emotional states? There's benefit to our physiology. And so here on the left, I want to show you two heart rate variability patterns. The bottom one is a pattern we refer to as coherence. When we're in a place of appreciation, we have this optimal heart rate pattern in which, as we breathe in, our heart rate speeds up. As we breathe out, our heart rate slows down. We are synchronizing our cardiovascular system and our nervous system and our respiratory system. And in this place of heart rate coherence, we are actually facilitating the healing process in our bodies. Okay? When we're in a negative emotional state, notice what happens with our heart rate pattern. Okay? Now, the interesting thing is, if you and I were in the same room together and I monitored your brain waves, I would be able to detect my heart rate pattern in your brain waves. Think about that. So what's being registered in your brainwave pattern when I'm in appreciation? And what's registering in your brainwave pattern when I'm in frustration? So notice the impact we have in people we're around, as well as the impact they have on us. Okay? Now, let's take a moment. I want to do a brief exercise with all of you. So what I'm showing you here is that when we focus on our heart and a sense of appreciation and gratitude and acceptance, our bodies go into this optimal heart rate variability coherence pattern. Now, I put this word mirror neurons up because we have these mirror neurons in our brains that have us respond to the way a person in our environment is treating us. They want to mimic what that other person is doing or saying. That's why they're called mirror neurons. And so the environment that you choose to be in and the people you choose to be with have a tremendous influence on you physiologically because we respond with our mirror neurons to the behavior we observe. And so I want to do a brief 2 to 3 minute exercise with you right now, okay? So this is something for all of you to do on your own. And I'm going to ask you to take 2 fingers of your right hand and put them on the pulse on your left wrist so you feel your heartbeat in your wrist. You feel your pulse. And now I'm going to ask you to breathe at 6 breaths per minute. 4 seconds in and 6 seconds out. Because when we breathe at 6 breaths per minute, it encourages this heart rate coherence that I'm talking about. So right now, get into a comfortable position. Put your fingers on your left wrist so you can feel your pulse. And now start to breathe about 4 seconds in and 6 seconds out. And as you begin, notice the tension in your body. Maybe feel it in your chest or your abdomen, maybe your shoulders. But each time you exhale, allow your muscles to let go. And each time you breathe in, imagine breathing in through your heart. So breathe in through your heart, and on the exhale, feel yourself letting go. Breathe in through your, and exhale, release the tension. And now, as you breathe in through your heart, I want you to think of somebody in your life that you have gratitude toward. So breathe in love and gratitude, and breathe out, letting go, release. Breathe in love and gratitude, and exhale and feel a sense of calm. Breathe in love and gratitude, and exhale and say the word calm. And each time you breathe out, allow your body to sink more deeply into your chair. Release and relax your shoulders, your arms. And now focus on your pulse and see if you notice that as you breathe in, your pulse speeds up, and as you breathe out, your pulse slows down. Breathe in gratitude, and exhale calm. And now, as you're doing this, repeat the phrase, I am feeling calm and relaxed. And now I want you to notice if you can detect feeling just a little bit more calm, even though we did this for less than 3 minutes. So it demonstrates how, if you practice a 10-minute relaxation exercise on a daily basis, you're literally going to create changes in your body and in your brain. You're going to help your brain and body function better. So every time we express positive emotions and being grateful, we facilitate this heart rate coherence that I'm talking about. So I want to leave a couple of minutes for questions. This is my new book. If you scan this code on the left, it takes you to my website. You could sign up and be on my mailing list, get my newsletters, and it also will talk a little bit about my book. And so thank you all for paying attention during this hour and hopefully learning some of these lessons that will support you in becoming more resilient. And thank you to those who earlier in my talk, when I asked you to make the commitment, you decided to make that commitment, to make the commitment to a growth mindset, to make the commitment to practicing a relaxation exercise that will help restore autonomic self-regulation in your body, all of which supports your body's ability to heal. If you go to my website, drstephensideroff.com, I have a 15-minute relaxation exercise that you can download for free. So thank you, everybody, and let me open this to questions.
Yeah, thank you. This has been illuminating. We're getting so many comments in the chat of people thanking you and saying you struck so many truths that have been meaningful to them. Oh, let's see. Questions are just coming in now. Perfect. Carrie's wanting to know, why does having a low HRV indicate, or what does it mean, heart rate variability, indicate from a health perspective? And can you raise your heart rate variability through relaxation and mindfulness?
So HRV, heart rate variability, has been used more and more as a marker of optimal health. So a flat heart rate is actually a sign of danger. You want more variability in your heart rate variability pattern. And if you practice a relaxation exercise where you're breathing at about 6 breaths per minute, you are encouraging greater heart rate variability, which is, as I just said, an important marker of health.
Thank you. We have a question from Diane. If a person is having a treatment like chemo, are the exercises you talked about sufficient, or do you need to do neurofeedback?
You know, it's interesting. There have been some recent research that shows that the benefits of heart rate variability actually show up as helpful, healthy changes in the brain as well. So we can actually access brain improvement through heart rate variability training. But neurofeedback is a great approach as well.
Let's see. And if anyone else has a question, feel free at this moment to just unmute yourself and ask directly. Or again, if you want to keep it private and have me read it, you can just put it in the Q&A box.
Yeah, so again, while we wait for any other questions, I want to emphasize this notion of a growth mindset, of the belief that anything that you find that you're struggling with, that you look for the possibility and the notion that you can improve along any dimension if you're persistent. So, you know, I talked about the childhood patterns and how powerful they are. They have sort of like a gravitational pull on us. That's why we find change to be so difficult. But we also have this tremendous ability at neuroplasticity, okay? And what I want to point out is that we can trigger this neuroplasticity, but we have to be consistent with it. We have to stay with it, stay on the path. If you keep getting onto the path and you stay on the path, when you fall off, you get back onto the path, you are going to notice differences. You're going to notice change. You're going to notice success with whatever it is that you're engaging in the process of. My book takes you step by step through these processes so that it helps guide you onto the path. If you fall off, it'll show you, okay, take these steps and puts you back onto the path. And again, the notion of the path is an easily accessible form of success that you can have every day. So you're looking at your day from this positive perspective of what you did right, rather than how we sometimes get stuck noticing what we didn't do, feeling bad that we didn't do as much exercise as we should have, or we didn't eat all the right food that we should have. Yeah, you want to keep moving in that direction, but if you've taken steps today to put you on the path, you want to feel good about it. You want to feel like you've made success. Tomorrow, you'll address something that you didn't address today. But it's coming from a place of feeling good about yourself for what you're doing rather than bad about yourself for what you didn't do. And if that's what's going on, remember to pay attention to those two internal voices, the existing one and the one you're working toward achieving, the healthy internal voice.
Yeah, I think your research is so exciting because it is empowering. Like there's a sense of agency to it. Let's see. Michelle, I'm trying to see if this is a question. Give me a moment to read. She said, since my vasculitis diagnosis 10 plus years ago, I found that my once positive outlook has changed. I'm outwardly positive, but my internal voice mimics my physical health. So my internal voice could scream negativity with the onset of pain or fatigue. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes. So first off, I want to acknowledge how an illness such as what you're dealing with can do that. Okay. I mean, we all are vulnerable in that sense, but I encourage you to pick up where you used to be in terms of a positive mindset. You always have a choice. What's the benefit of thinking negatively? Now, some people will say, well, it's just reality. And I will say, no, your mindset is a state that you have control over. And you can have a positive mindset. You can choose a positive mindset because it's going to help you get through whatever you're dealing with better. So you choose a positive mindset, not because, you choose a positive mindset because it helps your brain function better. And if your brain is functioning better, you're more likely to get better healing for what you're experiencing, or at the very least, handle the pain much better. So no matter how you look at it, aiming for a positive mindset is going to get better results than feeling negative. And if you have a growth mindset, then you say, well, if I keep working at it, I'll get there.
I just want to add that we keep getting more comments of how wonderful this presentation has been. So thank you. I'm going to take one more moment. If anyone else either wants to put a question, you can just put in the chat, or you want to unmute yourself, go ahead. Or if you're just still processing everything, that's okay too. I think you gave them a lot to digest.
Well, there's certainly a lot here, and I hope people take these ideas and use them on a daily basis. That's the key. Don't get discouraged. If you are feeling like it's not working, don't make that judgment. Okay, take a neutral stance. It's like as soon as you say something's not working, it actually sends you in the negative direction. And so you always want to be positive. If you're not sure if it's working, you say to yourself, I hope this is working. You say, if I keep doing this, it's maybe more likely to work. So a positive mindset in and of itself and a growth mindset is something that you are continually working at developing. So don't give up, be persistent.
Thank you. And one last thing, Cheryl said she ordered the book and says she knows she was supposed to let you know her order number to get the program. Who do I let know? She said, and could you put the QR code back up on the screen?
Oh, okay. Yes. How do okay, share screen. Host disabled, participating. Can you allow me to share my screen and I'll get that?
Oh, that's weird. Okay. Jen or Ed, can you help him share his screen?
Okay. So let me tell you, if you have any difficulties if you order getting the bonus, which is a great bonus, an audio program, email me, Sideroff sideroff@ucla.edu. And I'll make sure you get it. Sideroff@ucla.edu.
And Jen, my colleague, just put your email address in the chat. So if anyone else wants to grab that, you can, because that's a great offer. Yeah, another shout out for the 9 Pillars of Resilience. Hopefully you order your copy too. While people take another moment to scan the QR code, I just want to thank you. We truly do appreciate you and coming back a second time to share with our community. It means a lot.
Well, it's my pleasure, and people can't hear these messages enough, right? The more you hear it, the more it goes in, right? And so that's why it's so important for people to shift into that healthy internal voice, because that's the voice you all want to be hearing all the time.
Well, thank you. And thank you for everyone who joined us. And again, your energy brings a lot to this as well.